Right, everybody. Let's go ahead and hop to it. We got 5 more skills to cover, and damn it, I am ready to be done with skills. We don't got any more. We have no more magic skills left to go, so we shouldn't have a lot of repeats anymore. And we're going to start things off with society. If we get bored with society, I guess we will call it. But if possible, I'd like to get all the way through this. So let's see what we can do. All right, heading over to society. Society is an intelligence-based skill found in the core rulebook. You understand the people and systems that make civilization run, and you know the historical events that make societies what they are today. Further, you can use that knowledge to navigate the complex physical, societal, and economic workings of settlements. Even if you're untrained in society, you can use it for the following general skill actions. Recall knowledge about local history, important personalities, legal institutions, societal structures, and humanoid cultures. The GM might allow society to apply to other creatures that are major elements of society in your region, such as the draconic nobility in the kingdom of humans ruled by dragons. And subsist. Alright. Subsist in a settlement by finding shelter, scrounging, or begging for food. Alright. Sounds good. Basically, the society skill is everything that 5th edition wanted the history skill to be, but didn't, I think, explain it well enough for DMs and players to understand that history actually covers everything that has to do with civilization and learning, not just history. I feel like history doesn't get taken enough by players, and when it is, I don't feel like it's used enough. I actually have had my mind opened quite a bit by the society skill, and stupidly did not take it on my character for the campaign we're playing in now, because I thought it had to do with Pathfinder society and not actual like real society. I don't know. I overthought it for sure. What are some of the trained? All right, this music's too intense in the background. Hold on, hold on. It's too intense. I gotta change the music. Jesus Christ. All right. Yeah, yeah. Keep it chill. Keep it chill in the background. We're trying to study here. We're not fighting anything. We're just trying to study. Okay. All right. There better not be a lot of like ladies singing in the background either. I think this one has a lot of ladies singing there. All right, hold on. We're gonna try one more time. All right. We'll see what happens with that one. Okay. So what are our trained society actions? Decipher writing. That's a coded message, text written in an incomplete or archaic form, or in some cases, text in a language you don't know. And decipher writing is a general skill that was covered under the general skills section. Essentially, if it is an encoded message about uh, non-magical things, right? So if it's not covered by the magical skills, if it has to do with government, maybe trying to figure out legalese in like a legal document or upcoming bill or law or something like that, an edict by the king, war messages that might have been encoded, that sort of thing. All right. So, hmm. What kind of item bonuses are available for society? Wow, four whole items. That's wild. Okay. There are some society feats that we should check out. And then what is a special society trained action you can do? Create forgery. This is a downtime secret action for forgery, meaning you don't know the results of it, and it can only be performed during your downtime. Downtime is, of course, anything that takes days or weeks of time. It is not exploration, which takes hours of time. Um, you can create a forged document, usually over the course of a day or a week. You must have the proper writing material to create a forgery. When you create a forgery, The GM rolls a secret DC 20 society check. If you succeed, the forgery is of good enough quality that passive observers can't notice the fake. Only those who carefully examine the document and attempt a perception or society check against your society DC can do so. Now keep in mind, that's your DC, that's your passive society skill. You don't get to constantly roll active society checks. So you would know the average amount that your work would hold up, which I think is actually kind of nice because you don't have to gamble everything on having it be perfect every single time. You're like, my initial check is one thing, but then afterwards, it really just comes down to my average level of work. If the document's handwriting doesn't need to be specific to a person, you need only have seen a similar document before, and you gain up to a +4 circumstance bonus to your check, as well as your DC as determined by the GM. To forge a specific person's handwriting, you will need a sample of that person's handwriting. If your check result was below 20, the forgery has some obvious signs of being fake. So the GM compares your result to each passive observer's perception DC or society DC, whichever is higher, using the success or failure results below. Once the GM rolls your check for a document, that same result is used against all passive observers' DCs, no matter how many creatures passively observe that document. An observer who was fooled on a passive glance can still choose to closely scrutinize the document on the lookout for a forgery, using different techniques and analysis methods beyond the surface elements you successfully forged with your original check. In that case, the observer can attempt a perception or society check against your society DC. If they succeed, they know your document is a forgery. There are no critical successes here. If you succeed, it's not detected, and if you fail, it is detected. This is a very interesting thing because there's not usually just success or failure on these kind of things. There's always some margin there. I guess they sort of built the margin for error in with this check below 20, but overall, forgery ain't that easy. So that's interesting. All right, let's check out these society feats. Let's see. We're going to start with Courtly Graces. Courtly Graces is a level 1 general skill feat for society from the core rulebook. You were raised among the nobility or have learned proper etiquette and bearing, allowing you to present yourself as a noble and play games of influence and politics. You can use society to make an impression on a noble, as well as with impersonate to pretend to be a noble if you aren't one. If you want to impersonate a specific noble, you still need to use deception to impersonate normally and to lie when necessary. Interesting. All right. Eye for Numbers. Eye for Numbers is a level 1 general skill feat for society from the Advanced Player's Guide. It is a 1 Pac-Man action. For 1 Pac-Man, you've learned to subsidize. Subsidize? Okay. You've learned to subsidize, quickly estimating the number of items in a group with relative accuracy only at a glance. You immediately learn the number of visually similar items in a group you can see, such as coins, books, or people, rounded to the first digit in the total number. For example, you could look at a case of potion vials and learn that it held about 30 vials, but you wouldn't know that it was exactly 33 vials, how many different types of potions there were, or how many of which type. Similarly, you could look at a pile of 2,805 coins and know that there were about 3,000 coins in all. You can use this ability only on items that typically need to be counted, so you can't use it on grains of sand or the stars in the sky. In addition, when you attempt to decipher writing that is primarily numerical or mathematical, you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to your check. I'm going to put it out here. I don't know how often this would come in handy in most games. I can't imagine that most GMs are going to be so hardcore, so much of a stickler, that they are going to be like, well, if you want to know just how much gold there is, you're going to have to sit down and count every single one. But now that I think about it, I'm kind of into that shit. The problem here is that as the DM, I would have to remember how much it is, and I much prefer to hand the burden of knowledge over to my players than to carry it on my own back. But I suppose if I had a player who took this ability at level 1, I would run my campaign in such a manner that I would tell them all the numbers so that they could feel good about themselves. Yeesh. Alright. Glean contents. Alrighty. This is a level 1 general skill feat for society from the Advanced Player's Guide. You are adept at quickly scanning loose papers and carefully discerning the contents of sealed letters without damaging the seal. You can attempt society checks to decipher writing on a message that is only partially glimpsed, upside down, or reversed from your perspective, or even sealed. However, on a critical failure, the recipient is made aware of your efforts. For instance, you damage the seal or disrupt the paper in some way. When using this feat to decipher sealed letters, your attempt to decipher writing against gains the manipulate trait. This feat doesn't prevent witnesses from noticing your efforts, particularly with sealed letters, which you must manipulate directly in order to read. You might attempt deception or stealth checks to avoid being noticed. I like this a lot. I think that this is a good feat. And I don't think that players should be able to just do all of the rad spy shit that was just mentioned in this feat easily. But in the spirit of 5th edition D&D, I will very frequently just be like, sure, you can do anything you want, and then we will just make it the closest possible feat, and we'll be like, it works if you make this check. But, like, if you put a little bit more thought into these things, like, everything could be a bit more interesting or tedious, depending on your mindset, if you did kind of pay stuff a bit more attention, a bit more care. So I don't know. I can see that glean contents. I'm noticing a theme here with these society feats that this is a lot of stuff that as a DM or as a player in other people's games gets sort of hand waved because like this sort of stuff doesn't come up very often in play, and when it does, nobody really knows how to deal with it. For example, in 5th edition, I might say, in order to open the envelope without leaving any marks, you would do a sleight of hand check, and then you would then use, your skills to decipher it, and then sleight of hand check to put it back into the envelope or whatever. Nerdy Sakura, why hello there, lovely place you have here. I do believe it is your best interest to hire a few more guards. It was quite easy to sneak past them. Geez, yeah, I can't afford any guards. I don't even know if I have mods. I might have a couple of mods. I don't remember. Alright, so that is the Glean Contents feat. And overall, I'd say the Glean Contents is pretty cool and very situational. Aw, thank you. Let's see. Multilingual. Okay, so this is a level 1 general skill feat for society from the core rulebook. You easily pick up new languages. You learn 2 new languages, chosen from common languages, uncommon languages, and any others you have access to. You learn an additional language if you are or become a master in society, and again, if you are or become legendary. You can take this feat multiple times, and each time you do, you get all them languages all over again. And in case you were wondering, Pathfinder has a lot of languages. The world is very big and has a lot of cultures and languages. And I don't believe there's too many ways to easily communicate those languages, but there might be a couple of spells that let you skip over it. We'll have to see. All right, next up is Read Lips. Now, let's see. Read Lips is a level 1 general skill feat for society from the core rulebook. You can read lips of others nearby who you can see clearly. When you're at your leisure, you could do this automatically. In encounter mode, or when attempting a more difficult feat of lip reading, you're fascinated, which means you can't concentrate on things, and I believe you can't cast spells, maybe? I'm always forgetting what Fascinate does. Let's see. Fascinated, you're compelled to focus your attention on something distracting you from whatever else is going on around you. You take a -2 status penalty to perception at all skill checks. You can't use actions with concentrate trait unless they or their intended consequences are related to the subject of your fascination as determined by the GM. For instance, you might be able to seek and recall knowledge about a subject, but you wouldn't likely cast a spell targeting a different creature. This condition ends if a creature uses hostile actions against you or any of your allies. There you go. So you're fascinated and flat-footed during each round in which you focus on lip movements, and you must succeed at a society check, DC determined by the GM, to successfully read someone's lips. In either case, the language read must be one that you know. Interesting. All right, then we've got sign language. So sign language is a level 1 general skill feat using society. You learn the sign languages associated with the languages you know, allowing you to sign and understand signs. Sign languages typically require both hands to convey more complex concepts, and they are visual rather than auditory. Sign language is difficult to understand during combat due to the level of attention needed. Unlike basic gestures like pointing at a foe to suggest a target, sign language is hard to use in areas of low visibility, just like speech is difficult in a noisy environment. I get it, and I understand why they want a feat for it. I thought that one of the better things about 1D&D is that they added sign language as a language people could take. It's tricky. I guess I would still keep this as a feat, in so much as it would unlock all sign language of every language you know. But I think it would be kind of cool if there just was a sign language in the world that everybody could learn without taking a feat. I know that that might trivialize this feat a little bit. Maybe this feat would make it possible to convey such languages faster and more accurately during combat or something. Hard to say. That's a tough situation. All right. Next up, we've got Streetwise. Nerdy Sakura. I'm a rogue player, if it wasn't obvious, and I played 2 D&D sessions yesterday. Oh my goodness. That's a decent amount of Dungeons and Dragons you're playing there. I myself am playing two sessions today. Sometimes it feels like a bit too much. Like a bit too much. All right. Streetwise is a level 1 general skill feat for society from the core rulebook. You know about life on the streets and feel the pulse of your local settlement. You could use your society modifier instead of your diplomacy modifier to gather information. In any settlement you frequent regularly, you can use recall knowledge action with society to know the same source of information that you could discover with diplomacy to gather information. The DC is usually significantly higher, but you know the information without spending time gathering it. Oh. If you fail to recall the information, you can still subsequently attempt to gather information normally. That is a very useful feat. Wow, it stacks a second layer of redundancy over your gather information, and gathering information is pretty useful. All right, next up we've got connections. Let's see. Connections is a level 2 feat. It is uncommon general skill feat found in the core rulebook. You must be an expert in society, and you must also already have courtly graces. As an uncommon feat, you may need to check with your DM about it. You have social connections you can leverage to trade favors or meeting important people. When you're in an area with connections, typically a settlement where you spent downtime building connections, or possibly another area in the same nation, you can attempt a society check to arrange a meeting with an important political figure to ask for a favor in exchange for a later favor of your contact's choice. The GM decides the DC based on the difficulty of the favor and the figure's prominence. That seems really good. That seems really useful. Even in a campaign, well, I guess if the campaign was mostly wilderness, it might not be all that great, but for any campaign that's going to have city or town interactions, wow, that could be so useful. All right, then we go to criminal connections. Criminal Connections is a level 2 uncommon general skill feat. You must be an expert in society, and you must have Streetwise. This is brought to you by Advanced Player's Guide. you have dealings with a variety of unsavory characters, which you can leverage to trade favors or meet powerful people. When you're in an area where you have connections, typically a settlement where you've spent downtime building connections, or possibly another area in the same nation, you can attempt a society check to arrange a meeting with an important criminal, such as a Thieves Guild leader, or ask for a favor in exchange for a later favor of your contact's choice. The GM decides the DC based on the difficulty of the favor and the figure's prominence. So it's like the same thing but a different flavor. You got noble flavor and you got crime flavored. All right, we got quick contacts. This is a level 2 general skill feat. Expert in society with connections or criminal connections. It is a advanced player's guide feat. You know where to go, who to talk to, and how to make new connections fast. Upon entering a new settlement, spending 1 day of downtime allows you to build enough connections to use your connections or underworld connections feats. If you're legendary in society, you can form the required connections within 1 hour of entering a new settlement. I like how things take time in Pathfinder. It just makes it feel more real, like more meaningful, that like you have an expectation here that things take time to do. Everything takes time to do. And like I think that that's okay. Like I think it's okay for things to take time. 5e, everything is paced like so fast, like non-stop. And I like the idea of things moving a bit slower. Will I like it after playing it in a while? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Underground Network. This is a level 2 uncommon general skill feat. Expert in society. Prerequisite streetwise. You might need your GM's permission. It's from the Advanced Player's Guide. You're connected to groups that know what's going on in the streets, and you can get information out of them quickly. When you use society to gather information in an area where you have a network, typically a settlement where you've spent at least a week or spent a day of downtime to build a network faster, you can contact a member of these groups to get information directly from them. This usually takes about an hour, and it doesn't draw as much attention as gathering information in public might. The check and the information gained otherwise follow the normal rules for gather information. In addition, if you have successfully consulted the underground network, you get a +1 circumstance bonus to the next check to recall knowledge you attempt about the subject you were gathering information on, or a +2 circumstance bonus if you're using underworld lore for the check. The GM might change the lore skill related to the network depending on your location or the specifics of the network you're tapping into. So what I find with this is that in 5th edition D&D, the Dungeon Master is encouraged to pay attention to any organizations the party might be a member of. If you're playing in like Ravnica or Faerun on the Sword Coast, that sort of thing. And then I guess also like the different colleges within whatever the magic school one is. I can't remember off the top of my head. Strixhaven. And then just their backgrounds in general. And you would say, oh, because you're a Emerald Enclave woodsman, you could like contact these people or these people to get information. This feat is kind of saying like you could just do these things because that's how you built your character, and the GM has to be like, yes, that's how you built your character. Of course, you can find people to get this information from, and I like that. More and more and more, I like that there's just rules that everybody knows, and it just says this is how you play the game. And there's just so much less pressure on the GM to be like, well, if I say this person can contact people, do I have to say that these other characters can contact people? Do I need to have an entire contact network set up for every single character? Like, if you're concerned at all about equity, you start to ask yourself, like, well, this character that wants to have contacts, they never ask for anything else, so I definitely want to give them some cool contacts. But this other player that always wants as much as they can get from every possible thing, they already have, like, you know, crafting and magical weapons, and they've got all this other stuff going on. Do I also give them contacts as well? Because if these people have contacts, they're going to want contacts. You don't have to fucking worry about that. If you as a player want to have the ability to contact people for information, you build around that. There's rules to support that, and you're done. That's just a part of how your character works. I really like that. I just like moving some of the weight off of the GM's shoulders onto the game engine itself. I'm tired of being the game engine all the time. This is Crichton's Cognitive Crossover, one of my favorite feats. It is a level 4 uncommon general skill feat. Unfortunately, you have to be a member of the Pathfinder Society to get it, but it is a reaction where you've chosen 2 skills, and if you fuck up the one skill, you get to try that skill again with the other skill that you partnered with it. Just a tremendously useful feat. Sadly, you must join those stinky Pathfinder Society people to get it. Biographical Eye. This is a level 7 general secret skill for Masters of Society from the Advanced Player's Guide. And this is even if a brief conversation, even... Oh, wait. Let's try again. In even a brief conversation or social interaction, you pick up on subtle social and visual cues to learn a great deal about a person's origin and history. You might notice bits of green under the person's fingernails and determine they're an herbalist, a pin indicating their membership in a secret society, or something similar. You pick up on only details that have to do with their societal roles. So you might learn the city district where a vampire lives, but wouldn't learn any of their weaknesses, nor necessarily even if they are a vampire. You might notice that they don't cast a reflection and have sharp teeth. That kind of feels like something you would notice with this skill. Spend 1 minute in the presence of someone you haven't met before, or haven't met since you first gained Biographical Eye. Then attempt a DC 30 Society check. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to the check if you engage the person in conversation during this time. If the person is deliberately trying to conceal their nature or present a false identity, you learn about their false biography rather than their true one, unless the result of your society check exceeds their will DC. Well, that's interesting. Their will DC. Will is a saving throw that takes the best of wisdom or charisma, so I could kind of see that as essentially a passive bluff score sort of thing. I don't know why it didn't just go off of like deception though. Critical success. You learn the creature's profession, their specialty within that profession, and a major accomplishment or controversy from their career. You also learn the nation and settlement where they live, as well as the district in a city large enough to have districts. In addition, you learn the nation or settlement where they spent their formative years. Let me tell you what, if you can learn all of that but not figure out that a person's a fucking vampire, I don't know what to tell you. If you get a regular success, you learn the creature's profession and specialty within that profession. You learn the nation or settlement where they normally live. Failure, you learn the creature's profession and the region of the world they hail from, but nothing more. Wow, you still get stuff on a failure. That's pretty cool. Critical failure, you learn a piece of erroneous information about the creature. Overall, that's a really cool feat. To have this level of like insight in 5th edition, you would have to be an inquisitive rogue. I can't think of any other way in 5e to gain this level of insight mechanically. Obviously, you could have the insight skill and the GM could like decide that you could do this stuff, but mechanically, I think the closest thing you've got is the inquisitive rogue. And this could be taken by anybody with mastery over the society skill. That's pretty cool. All right, underneath that, you've got Legendary Codebreaker. This is a level 15 feat. So let's see if you can kill someone by breaking their code. This is a general skill for legends in society from the core rulebook. Your skill with languages and codes is so great that you can decipher information with little more than a quick read through a text. You can decipher writing using society while reading at normal speed. If you slow down and spend the full amount of time that's ordinarily required to roll a success, you get a critical success. If you critically succeed while spending the normal amount of time, you gain a nearly word-for-word understanding of the document. I just don't know how many secret documents you're going to encounter in your career that you would want to take this as your level 15 feat. But man, if you did, good for you. All right, and then the other one is Legendary Linguist. This is a level 15 general skill feat for legends in society that also took the multilingual feat from the core rulebook. You're so skilled with languages that you can create a pigeon instantly. I'm going to assume a pigeon is a made-up language, but we're going to look it up so that we know what we're talking about. I've never had to look up this many things with D&D.
Pigeon.
A pigeon is grammatically simplified form of a language used for communication between people not sharing a common language. Pigeons have a limited vocabulary, some elements of which are taken from local languages and are not native languages, but arise out of language contact between speakers of other languages. Holy shit. Okay. Instantly create this. Wow. You can always talk to any creature that has a language, even a language you don't know, by creating a new pigeon language that uses simplified terms and conveys basic concepts. To do so, you must first understand at least what medium of communication they use, speech, sign language, and so on. That is actually, it doesn't kill somebody like the intimidation level 15 feet, but I think it's pretty good. You basically have tongues permanently as a level 15 feet. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. All right, and so that brings us to the close of society. We have 3 more skills to go. I'm thinking we do one more. One more. It's a doozy. It's going to be stealth. So strap in, and let's take a look at the stealth skill in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. All kinds of experiences and training can shape your character beyond what you learn by advancing in your class. Abilities that require a degree of training but can be learned by anyone, not only members of certain... okay, there's no flavor text for stealth? Okay, that's weird. I'm just looking at the stealth feats. My bad. Hold on. Let's start over. Okay. We'll fix it in post. All right. Let's look at the stealth skill. Stealth is dex-based feat. No. Stealth is dex-based skill. There we go. You are skilled in avoiding detection, allowing you to slip past foes, hide, or conceal an item. There are many items to help you with stealth. Just a lot. Just a lot of items to help you with stealth. And there are many feats related to stealth that we will learn about later. What can you do untrained with stealth? You can conceal an object for 1 Pac-Man. This is a manipulate secret action. You hide a small object on your person, such as a weapon of light bulk. When you try to sneak a concealed object past someone who might notice it, the GM rolls your stealth check and compares it to this passive observer's perception DC. Once the GM rolls your check for concealed object, that same result is used no matter how many passive observers you try to sneak it past. If a creature is specifically searching you for an item, it can attempt a perception check against your stealth DC, finding the object on a success. Again, your stealth DC implies your passive skill, as if you had rolled a 10. You can also conceal an object somewhere other than your person, such as among undergrowth or in a secret compartment within a piece of furniture. In this case, characters seeking in an area compare their perception check results to your stealth DC to determine whether they find the object. This is a success or failure based thing. It either remains undetected or it is found. Also untrained is hide for 1 Pac-Man. This is a secret skill. You huddle behind cover or greater cover or deeper into concealment to become hidden rather than observed. Respecting, of course, the 4 tiers of existence, which is observed, concealed, question mark, hidden, and undetected. I think those are the ones. The GM rolls your stealth check in secret and compares the result to the perception DC of each creature you've observed. Hold on, let's start over again. The GM rolls your stealth check in secret and compares the results to the perception DC of each creature you are observed by, but that you have cover or greater cover against or are concealed from. You gain the circumstance bonus from cover or greater cover to your check. On a success, if the creature would see you or could see you, you're now hidden from it instead of observed. If you were hidden from or undetected by, you retain that condition. And keep in mind that hidden means that they can't see you, but they know you're there, and undetected means they can't see you or hear you, and they don't know you're there. That's the difference between hidden and undetected. If you successfully become hidden to a creature, but then cease to have cover or greater cover against it, or be concealed from it, you become observed again. So that means like walking right out into the open, essentially. You cease being hidden if you do anything except hide, sneak, or step. Step is where you get to move like 5 feet, I think. Stride is where you get to move your full movement. If you attempt to strike a creature, the creature remains flat-footed against that attack, good for rogues, and you then become observed. We're all pretty familiar with this from 5e. If you do anything else, you become observed just before you act unless the GM determines otherwise. The GM might allow you to perform a particularly unobtrusive action without being noticed, possibly requiring another stealth check. If a creature uses Seek to make you observed by it, you must successfully hide to become hidden from it again. Okay. So, all of that might sound really complicated, but basically it's like this. If you were undetected and then they heard you, right? You are no longer undetected, but you are still hidden. They don't know where you are, but they know that you are there. If you are hidden and they hear you or spot, or sorry, if you are hidden and they spot you, they see you, then you are no longer hidden from them. And in order to be hidden again, you would need to go and find some cover or some concealment and then attempt it again. This isn't too different than what we're already doing in 5e, where your DM might require you to go behind a tree to break line of sight. So you went behind the tree, you rolled a new stealth check. Now the guy knows you're behind the tree, but he doesn't know where behind the tree. Are you going to pop out on the left? Are you going to pop out on the right? Are you climbing the tree? They don't know for sure. So that means that you are hidden from that person, but they know you're there. If you were behind the tree and they didn't know you were behind the tree, obviously they can't see you, they can't hear you, you're undetected, you don't exist in their universe. Okay. Now, what are some like baby actions you might be able to do while stealth? That's up to your GM. Stuff that I've heard about is like you yourself using a seek action. It makes sense that looking around isn't going to make a lot of noise, so you could definitely yes, this has a very good interaction with create diversion because you could say, look over there, and then that gives you concealment. And while they're looking away from you, you duck behind some cover, and then you hide. Keep in mind, they still know you're there, so you're only hidden, and they can still try to find you. Other things that I might allow someone to do would be an item interaction. I might allow someone to do an item interaction if they're like trying to kind of open a door. I might require a second stealth check. So yeah, there are actions that your GM might allow, but by default you can only hide, sneak, or step. And stepping is 5 feet movement at a time. So if you've got a normal speed of 25, and you're used to moving at that pace, this isn't 5e where you're stealthing at half speed. Like you are moving 5 feet per action. It ain't great. All right, so then we've got. Well, I should say this. Once you are hidden, as long as you are staying hidden, I don't believe you need to invest any more action economy into staying hidden. So as long as you can maintain that hidden status, you can use that action each round for other things. Like, let's see, like sneaking. Here we go. So sneaking is a move and a secret action, cost 1 Pac-Man. You can attempt to move to another space while becoming or staying undetected. Notice I said undetected. Stride up to half your speed. You can use sneak while burrowing, climbing, flying, or swimming instead of striding if you have the corresponding movement type, but you must do those at half speed. If you're undetected by a creature and it's impossible for that creature to observe you. For a typical creature, this includes if you're invisible, if they are blind, or if you're in darkness and the creature can't see in darkness. For any critical failure you roll on a check to sneak, you get a failure instead. You can also continue to be undetected if you lose cover or greater cover against or are no longer concealed from such a creature. All right, you get a failure instead. You also continue to be undetected if you lose cover. Okay. So what it's saying is if a creature doesn't know you're there, and it doesn't have an easy means of knowing you're there, even if you fuck this up, it's still not going to see you. So you're not going to like make this thing aware of you on some supernatural level just because you rolled poorly on this attempt. Is basically what it's trying to tell you. All right. At the end of your movement, the GM rolls your stealth check in secret and compares the result to the perception DC of each creature you were hidden from or undetected by at the start of your movement. If you have cover or greater cover from the creature throughout your stride, you get a +2 circumstance bonus from cover, or a +4 from greater cover to your stealth check. Because you're moving, the bonus increase from taking cover doesn't apply. You don't get to roll against a creature if, at the end of your movement, you neither are concealed from it nor have cover or greater cover against it. So no Solasta sneaking, Dom. There's no Solasta sneaking in Pathfinder. You automatically become observed by such a creature. All right. Essentially, this is hard to explain without like miniatures, but the idea here is pillar A and pillar B. Here's my hands. Pillar A and pillar B. Okay, you're trying to get from here to here, and so you spend this one Pac-Man and you try to travel 15 feet from behind this pillar to behind that pillar. There's guards. They're walking the hallway, right? They're walking the hallway. You have to make the stealth check against those two guards, and it is assumed that you did it in such a way that both guards were looking at each other, looking out the window, picking their nose, yawning, closing their eyes, whatever. But you have to end behind that cover of the next pillar, or they're just going to see you because you're just caught out in the open. So it's a lot. I think it's very strict, but I also think it's very good mechanically as a board game sort of, top-down, grid-based combat system. I think it's actually handled pretty well. All right. If you succeed, you're undetected by the creature during your movement and remain undetected by the creature at the end of it. You become observed as soon as you do anything other than hide, sneak, or step. If you attempt to strike a creature, the creature remains flat-footed against the attack, and then you become observed. If you do anything else, you become observed just before the act, unless the DM determines otherwise. The GM might allow you to perform a particularly unobtrusive action without being noticed, possibly requiring another stealth check. If you speak or make a deliberately loud noise, you become hidden instead of detected. That is because they know that you're there, even though they cannot see you. If a creature uses Seek and you become hidden to it as a result, you must sneak if you want to become undetected by that creature again. On a failure, a telltale sound or other sign gives your position away, though you still remain unseen. You're hidden from the creature throughout your movement and remain so. Critical failure, you're spotted. You're observed by the creature throughout your movement and remain so. If you're invisible and were hidden from the creature instead of being observed, you're hidden throughout your movement and remain so. All right, why do we need a stealthy skill, why do we need sneak and hide? So sneak is not changing your status, okay? You have to have already hidden or already be undetected to sneak. In order to get hidden, you would use hide. So hide is what you're using to actually get hidden. Once you are hidden, then you could use an action to sneak. So that's what it's for. Can you chain sneak? I think so. Let's see if it says anything about it. If you want to sneak around where there are creatures that can see you, you can use a combination of hide and sneak to do so. First, hide behind something, like I just said, either by taking advantage of cover or having the concealed condition due to fog, a spell, or similar effect. A successful stealth check makes you hidden, though the creatures still know roughly where you are. Second, now that you're hidden, you can sneak. That means you can move at half your speed and attempt another stealth check. If it's successful, you're now undetected. So why are you now undetected? You are now undetected because when you were hidden, you were behind that pillar. You were behind that bookcase. You were behind that statue. And that's where they think you are. But if you successfully sneak away to a new location, everybody still thinks that you are where you were when you were hidden, right? Because hidden means they know you're there, but they can't see you. So they're like, she's behind the statue. Go look behind the statue. But then they go behind the statue and you're not there because you used sneak to go somewhere else. And now you're undetected because they're like, where the fuck did she go? Where is she? I don't know anymore. Now, I'd argue that they have every reason to start looking for you again. And so, yeah, but they don't know where to look for you. So the AI script for the bad guy would reset and they would be back to, I know there's someone here. And they'd have to start running through all their seek actions to try and find you. They'd have to use move actions to move around and try to guess where you are. They wouldn't just be able to say, she's over there behind the bookcase, because they wouldn't know. And that's why I think that mechanically this is actually pretty sound stuff. All right. Let's see. That means the creatures don't know which square you're in anymore, which I just explained. If you were approaching creatures that didn't know you were there, you could begin sneaking right away since they didn't know your location at the start. Some actions can cause you to become observed again, but they're mostly what you'd expect: standing out in the open, attacking someone, making a bunch of noise, and so on and so forth. If you strike someone after successfully hiding or sneaking, though, they're flat-footed to that strike. Creatures can try to find you using the seek action, as described in the book. 3 conditions explain the states of detection. Remember that these conditions are relative to each other. You could be observed by one creature while hidden to another and undetected by a third. I really hope that there is some mod support for this in Foundry, because if ever I wanted mod support to help people see certain things and not see other things, it would be for Pathfinder stealth system. Observed, you're in the creature's clear view. Hidden, the creature knows your location but can't see you. Undetected, the creature doesn't know your location. So there you go. I think that unknown is actually like even more so than undetected. Unknown is like they had no idea you were there in the first place. I don't see anything about can you chain stealth together. So let's see. Pathfinder 2E. Can I chain stealth to move further? Let's see. How to play. Spell delivery. Does hidden include concealment? Pathfinder 2. Do I need cover between each stealth? No, sorry, sneak. Each sneak action. Alright, question about stealth and taking cover on Reddit. Alright. Is anyone here well versed in the stealth rules? I'm trying to figure out if the take cover action is different than the hide action. Like, well, we know that. They're different actions. I guess we'll have to look this up. As written, Dom, it sounds like between each sneak, you're going to have to have cover or concealment. That's what it sounds like. I'm sure there's probably a good house rule for that, and maybe there's a ruling that I don't know about for this, but it feels like as written, you're gonna have to have cover between each of your sneak actions. So. All right. So I guess as a rogue, if you're sneaking a lot as a rogue, you're just going to want to have a really beefy ass speed, because keep in mind the average speed in Pathfinder 2 is 25 feet, and when you have things, you round down. So there's no like going 12 feet. You would only go 10 feet. So yeah, like that's rough. I think that there's a couple of species or heritage or whatever that have better speed than others, and you probably, if you're going rogue, wanna go for that and grab some feats that give you extra speed. All right, what are our stealth feats? I imagine there's a lot. Oh, there's only a handful of them? Okay, there's a decent amount. All right, here we go. Right off the bat, we got Experienced Smuggler. You are well versed in the prison pouch. This is a level 1 feat general skill, and you must be trained in stealth. Apparently, this has been impacted by the Pathfinder Society, as you always earn income with the underworld lore with tasks of your level -1 instead of the normal -2. Oh, wow. Okay, that's kind of cool. Let's see. You often smuggle things past the authorities. When the GM rolls your stealth check to see if a passive observer notices a small item you have concealed, the GM uses the number rolled or 10, whichever is higher, as the result of your die roll. Oh, reliable talent for concealing objects. That's cool. Adding it to your stealth modifier to determine your stealth check result. If you're a master in stealth, they use the number rolled or a 15, hot damn. And if you're legendary, you automatically succeed at hiding a small concealed item from passive observers, period. This provides no benefits when a creature attempts a perception check to actively search you for hidden items. Due to your smuggling skill, you're more likely to find lucrative smuggling jobs when using underworld lore to earn income. That sounds pretty cool. I don't know how often you need to conceal stuff in the game, but I guess even in a dungeon, if you got taken captive, you'd want to have some lockpicks, in your prison pouch. Anyways, feat number 1, Terrain Stalker, general skill for stealth from the core rulebook. Select one type of difficult terrain from the following list: rubble, snow, or underbrush. While undetected by all non-allies in that type of terrain, you can sneak without attempting a stealth check as long as you move no more than 5 feet and do not move within 10 feet of an enemy at any point during your movement. This also allows you to automatically approach creatures to within 15 feet while avoiding notice during exploration as long as they aren't actively searching or on guard. You can select this feat multiple times and each time choose a different type of terrain. That is really good. Wow. I mean, rubble for dungeons and ruins, underbrush for everywhere else, and then, snow, that's obviously going to be pretty situational. Reliable stealth seems pretty good. Is this outside of combat, though, right? Select one when undetected by all known type of terrain, you can sneak without attempting. No, it just says that you could do it. So I guess you could just do it automatically, unless they are looking for you. Wow. Okay. That's pretty good. I would assume that if the bad guys are in a fight, they are probably looking for trouble. So it seems like more of an exploration out of combat thing, but it's pretty damn awesome. Just being good at stealth, not having to stress about it. Wow. All right, Armored Stealth. This is a level 2 skill feat. It's a general skill for stealth from the Advanced Player's Guide. You have learned techniques to adjust and modify your armor and movements to reduce the noise that you make. When you wear non-noisy armor with which you are trained, your penalty to stealth checks is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 0. If you're a master in stealth, reduce the penalty by 2, and if you're legendary, reduce the penalty by 3. If your armor has the noisy trait, instead of reducing the penalty to stealth checks, you ignore the effects of the noisy trait, enabling you to remove the penalty with a sufficient strength score as normal. I like that a lot. I love the idea that this game has strength rogues baked into the rules, and that those strength rogues could go around in armor as early as level 2. Some actual decent armor as early as level 2. That's great. All right, Quiet Allies. This is a level 2 general skill feat for stealth from the core rulebook. You're skilled at moving with a group. When you are avoiding notice and your allies follow the expert, these are exploration actions, by the way, you and those allies can roll a single stealth check using the lowest modifier instead of rolling separately. This doesn't apply for initiative rolls. Now, this is one that's a little confusing, the Quiet Allies. It doesn't sound as good as it actually is. It says right here, you and those allies can roll a single stealth check using the lowest modifier instead of rolling separately. That doesn't mean that, like, you look at all of your allies and you take the shittiest stealth skill. It means that you take the shittiest dexterity but you still use your training. If this is wrong, please correct me in the chat or in the comments. So that would mean that you, the party rogue or the party ranger with your really great stealth, you are helping everyone else sneak through the woods, sneak through the dungeons, sneak up on the bad guys. So you make a single check, and then it applies for the whole group. Um, I mean, that just seems really, really good. But when I first read it, I thought it was you get to roll one stealth check for everybody using the worst stealth check. But it just says the lowest modifier, so I'm pretty sure that that just means that. Let me look it up, because I could have sworn I read this the other day. Quiet allies, Pathfinder 2, who's check? All right, maybe this Reddit post will actually be helpful. I don't entirely understand how this helps. I understand it rolls for the group, but if it uses the lowest modifier, it doesn't mean you're all stealthing as well as the worst person. And then this person says, just as an example of how it's supposed to work, if the stealthiest person in the party has an 80% chance of success, the next two people have 65, and the least stealthy person only has 50%. The odds of all four party members succeeding on the check is 80%. 80, 65, 65, 50 equals 16.9%, with an 18.5% chance of at least one person rolling 1 and critically failing. With quiet allies, you do use the lowest modifier. Oh, so I am wrong. You do use the lowest modifier, but only needing to make one check means that you have a 50% chance of everyone succeeding and only a 5% chance of critical failure. It increases the party's overall odds significantly. Hell, even if everyone in the party had 80% chance of success, your odds would still be 40% because of the chances of natty ones and things like that. Ah, okay. Man, these kids love math. God damn, they love math. If you're following the expert, the allies are going to get a bonus based on your training. So the low modifier is still better than them rolling solo. Instead of having each member roll and maybe fail, you give the lowest person a +2 minimum, and then they make a single roll. So there you go. I was wrong. I was very confused on this skill, so I'm glad I looked it up again. This feat says you take the worst stealth check in the party. You roll it for everyone in the party, but that's it. Like, no one else has to roll. And so whatever bonuses you guys have, whatever buffs that you could give, you give it to that person, that worst person. And if they make the roll, that means the whole party got to stealth. So, like, it's still pretty good in my opinion. And if you don't think it's pretty good, you could read the math here. And the math pretty much puts it out there that 50% is much better than an 18%, essentially. So here, I'll go ahead and put in there. And to a certain extent, a 50% is better than everyone being good at it and still having a 41% chance. So, yeah. But I could understand why people might be confused by any of these feats that say a single check using the lowest modifier, because as you just saw, it's very confusing. But that's the situation. And it doesn't seem that great, but you got to remember that it's very easy to critically succeed and critically fail in this system. If you get 10 less than what you need, that's a critical failure. So you definitely need to kind of keep that stuff in mind. Now, we saw with stealthing, I didn't think there was any penalties for having a critical failure, but it's still worth mentioning. All right, let's see. The next one is Shadow Mark. This is a level 2 general skill feat for stealth from the Advanced Player's Guide. You have learned special tricks that help you follow individuals without them noticing you. When you attempt a stealth check to avoid notice while following a specific target, the target takes a -2 circumstance penalty to their perception DC. If you have a master proficiency in stealth, the penalty is -3 or -4 if you're legendary. If you start an encounter with the target while shadowing them, the target takes this penalty to their initiative roll and to their perception DC to determine if they notice you, as normal for sneak. What is avoid notice, and why did that not come up? Oh, that's under the exploration actions. Okay. You attempt a stealth check to avoid notice when traveling at half speed. If you have swift sneak feet, you can move at full speed rather than half, but you still can't use other exploration activity while you do so. If you have the legendary sneak feet, you may move at full speed and use a second exploration activity. If you're avoiding notice at the start of an encounter, you usually roll a stealth check instead of perception to determine your initiative and see if the enemies notice you based on the perception. DC is a secret regardless of the issue. Okay. Cool. All right. Shadow Mark sounds pretty good. A bit situational. A bit situational. We got Fane's Escape. This is a level 4 action feat. Uncommon general skill for stealth. And it says you must be a member of the Pathfinder Society. You must have a deck of playing cards on your possession. This is a 2 Pac-Man action. A good getaway requires a good distraction. You interact to draw a deck of cards and flip it in a fluttering explosion, causing you to become briefly hidden to all creatures using vision as their precise sense. And then you sneak. You have enough cover to sneak until the end of your turn. This leaves all of the cards from the deck scattered about the room. Collecting them into a deck again will take several minutes. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. I feel like learning that skill would take time, so making it a feat is pretty cool. Foil Senses. This is a level 7 general skill feat for masters in stealth. You are adept at foiling creatures' special senses and cautious enough to safeguard against them at all times. Whenever you use the avoid notice, hide, or sneak actions, you are always considered to be taking precautions against special senses. See the detecting with other senses sidebar. All right. You're safeguard against them at all times. Whenever you use avoid notice or sneak, you always consider to be taking precautions against it. So this is very much, you've all either played with, DM'd, or been this player where you're like, I wipe poop all over myself so that I can't be tracked by the wolves because I smell like poop. Yep, I win. I win Dungeons & Dragons. You can't use scent on me. I smell like poop. Yes, so this is a feat for that player. The poopy player. Who likes covering themselves with poop. Alright, Foil Senses, and then we've got Swift Sneak. This is a level 7 general skill feat for stealth from the core rulebook. You can move your full speed when you sneak. You can use Swift Sneak while burrowing, climbing, flying, or swimming instead of striding if you have the corresponding movement type. And this leads into the level 15 feat for sneaking, Legendary Sneak. This is a level 15 general skill feat for Legends of Stealth with Swift Sneak. Core rulebook, you're always sneaking. Period. The end. You're always sneaking unless you choose to be seen, even when there's nowhere to hide. Well, that's fucking awesome. You can hide and sneak, even without cover or being concealed. Yes! When you employ if you're a rogue in Pathfinder, and I find out that you were level 15 or higher, and you did not have the legendary sneak feat, I'm not talking to you ever again, okay? I'm not talking to you ever again. You can hide and sneak even without cover or being concealed. When you employ an exploration tactic other than avoiding notice, you also gain the benefits of avoiding notice unless you choose not to. Whew, baby. That's a pretty cool feat. Okay. And there you have it. The sneak skill. A little confusing. There's definitely a lot to it. I'd like to make a stealth video explaining stealth with actual like minis so that like I can try it out and people could like kind of see it in action, because it's like there's a bit more to it, and I think it would be explained better like in play. But I personally feel that I have a good sense of how stealth works, and honestly for me that's enough right now. And I'm glad I got some clarity on that group stealth thing, because I do feel that like in our campaign that we're playing through Abomination Vaults, we could have probably focused more on stealth than we did. And once all of these characters die, I heard stride doesn't include your other movement types, like flying has its own action that costs 2 Pac-Mans. Other movements do cost more Pac-Mans. Alright. Well, maybe not. Look, fly only costs 1 Pac-Man, sir. Sir in chat. It says right here, fly, 1 Pac-Man. And I think swim is also just 1 Pac-Man. So you may have heard wrong. There does not seem to be any two. Maybe burrow. Let's look at burrow. Burrow might be a little slow. Let's see. Nope, they all cost 1 Pac-Man. All right, so overall, I'm feeling pretty good about the skills. We've only got 2 more skills to go, but I am going to rest my voice box for a little bit and work on some other stuff around the house. I still have prep for Mythic Odyssey tonight, and I still have some work to do on some publishing stuff. And then, of course, we're running Mythic Odyssey tonight. There is no game tomorrow night. I had some stuff come up, and I had to cancel. Tuesday night, we will be playing some Pathfinder and also some Cyberpunk, not at the same time. Wednesday, we got nothing going on. Thursday, we got Curse of Strahd Nightfall. Friday, we have our vodcast that we're going to do. Saturday morning, we got Curse of Strahd Daybreaks. No. Saturday morning, we got Red Handed Doom. Sunday morning, we got Curse of Strahd Daybreak. And then we'll be, rinse and repeat, ad nauseum forever, D&D games, Pathfinder, tabletop forever. All right, I'm going to end up splitting this video into 2 separate videos, I think. But thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you next time. 2 more skills to go.